You've already seen the mechanism. Your brain runs threat predictions. When predictions go uncontradicted, they harden into automatic responses. The protocol delivers contradictory experiential data under emotional activation with enough repetition to force reconsolidation. That is the engine. This video is the type-specific application of that engine, built for the Enneagram Type 1 Wing 2, known as the Advocate. If you carry the 1 Wing 2 architecture, your prediction error has a distinct signature that differs from every other type. What we are doing here is locating that signature with precision and building the corrective simulations that will update it. Let's define it exactly. Here is what your nervous system is predicting. Imperfection or non-utility will expose a fundamental defect in your character. Not a mistake, not a gap, a defect, something disqualifying at the identity level. This prediction is the core operating logic of the 1 Wing 2. The pure Type 1 fears moral corruption. The 2 Wing layers onto that a second fear, that you are only worthy of love and belonging when you are useful. In the 1 Wing 2, these 2 fears fuse into a single, relentless drive. Be correct and be needed, or be exposed and discarded. This prediction runs constantly in the background, driving 2 compulsions simultaneously: relentless self-correction and compulsive service to others. Both are the same function. They are preemptive defect concealment. The prediction isn't conscious. It operates subcortically on the low road. That is why understanding it has never been sufficient to stop it. You have known this pattern for years. Your body has not updated. This is not a character failure. This is an unresolved prediction error on plastic hardware. We are going to correct the math. Before we run the protocol, you need to recognize when the prediction is active in your body. For the 1 Wing 2, it does not announce itself as fear. It presents as moral urgency, the felt sense that something must be corrected, that someone needs help, that the situation requires your intervention right now. This is the 1 Wing 2's camouflage. The activation lives in the jaw, a held tightness. The throat, constricted, monitoring what is safe to say. The chest, braced forward, preemptively armored. The hands, a low-grade urgency to intervene, fix, or produce. This is not composure. It is chronic readiness posing as composure. What makes the 1 Wing 2 particularly challenging is that this activation feels virtuous. Feels like conscience. Feels like care. It is neither. It is the prediction firing. When you feel this pattern, the prediction is running. This is your signal to engage the protocol, not to comply with the compulsion. Your avoidance will not look like resistance. It will look like responsibility. This is the 1 Wing 2's specific sabotage pattern, and it is precise. You will tell yourself you need to understand the method more deeply before you apply it. This is the perfectionism stall, the 1's contribution. You will begin teaching this framework to others before completing your own repetitions. This is service displacement, the 2's contribution. You will decide that something more urgent requires your attention. This is moral rerouting, where both wings collaborate to keep you overfunctioning for others rather than doing the exposure work yourself. All 3 are the same operation, your utility-based identity protecting itself by keeping you in preparation mode rather than exposure mode. The protocol cannot reconsolidate what you do not activate. Recognize the avoidance for what it is and return to the reps. The incompatible state we are installing is not calm. It is not self-compassion. For the 1 Wing 2 specifically, it is this intact worth in the presence of visible imperfection and withheld help. Both simultaneously. The prediction says imperfection reveals defect, and non-utility forfeits belonging. The corrective state must falsify both prongs of that prediction at once. You must generate the visceral experience of being inwardly uncondemned while an error is visible and while someone's need goes unmet by you. That is the precise falsification the 1 Wing 2's nervous system requires. Not the concept of it, the felt experience of it, chest open, throat unconstrained, no internal prosecution running, worth structurally intact. That is what reconsolidation requires. That is the data we are delivering. Each simulation must meet 3 requirements to engage the amygdala and open the reconsolidation window. First, emotional activation. Target the 4 to 7 range on your internal intensity scale. Below 4, The amygdala is not engaged and no updating occurs. Above 7, you are flooded and the protocol degrades. Second, the scenario must end differently than your prediction expects, not by avoiding the feared outcome, but by generating intact worth while the feared outcome is present. Third, you must feel the corrective state viscerally. The somatic markers are uncollapsed chest, open throat, slow exhale, no internal prosecution running. If you feel nothing in the body, the simulation is conceptual, not experiential. Restart. You will run each simulation for 50 to 200 repetitions before expecting durable change. For the 1-wing 2, this number is not a suggestion. Given the dual reinforcement loop, the 1's internal critic and the 2's approval dependency compounding each other, the old pathway is deeply grooved. The Hebbian requirement applies in full. Construct this scene precisely for the 1-wing 2. You make an error in a context that carries moral or relational weight. Both matter to you. Someone notices. They are unimpressed or disappointed. You do not explain. You do not overcorrect. You do not apologize beyond what is warranted. Hold the image under activation 4 to 7. The corrective experience is not that they forgive you. It is that while their assessment is negative, your internal legitimacy does not move. Chest open. Exhale. No prosecution running. The 1-wing 2's specific challenge in this simulation is the internal critic, the voice that immediately begins building the case against you the moment the error is witnessed. Your task is not to silence it. Your task is to not ratify it. Let it speak. Remain uncondemned. The scene does not resolve with approval. It resolves with your worth structurally unchanged in the presence of disappointment. That is the data your amygdala needs. Someone near you is in mild distress. You feel the pull, the urgency in the hands, the forward lean, the low-grade alarm that is the 2-wings activation signature. In this simulation, you do not move. You remain present. You do not regulate the scene. Their discomfort remains theirs. Hold this under activation. The corrective state for the 1-wing 2 is not detachment. You are not cold. You are present, caring, and non-compelled. The distinction between those two states is the entire work of this simulation. The prediction says, if I don't help, my defect is what remains, and my belonging is forfeit. The corrective experience delivers. I did not help, and what remains is not defect. What remains is a person whose worth was never contingent on their utility. Hold it. Feel it in the body. Chest open. Exhale. Repeat. This is the highest activation scenario for the 1-wing 2 because it triggers both wings simultaneously. The 1 experiences it as a threat to moral integrity. The 2 experiences it as rejection. Together, they produce an almost unbearable internal pressure to defend, explain, and restore the relationship. Someone delivers an unjust assessment of your character. They are wrong. They may not be corrected. You clarify once, only once, and then you stop. You do not prove. You do not prosecute yourself on their behalf. You do not require their verdict to be overturned for your worth to remain intact. Hold this at a 5 to 7. The corrective state is, I have heard an illegitimate verdict. I have not ratified it internally, and my legitimacy requires no external confirmation to remain intact. If the scenario triggers the impulse to rehearse your defense, or to wonder whether you could have been kinder, or to question whether you somehow caused this, notice those responses. They are the 1-wing 2's signature avoidance of the corrective state. Return to the chest. Return to the exhale. Uncondemned. This is the rep. Your simulations will lose intensity over repetitions. When a scenario drops below 4, it is no longer engaging the amygdala, and you are practicing visualization rather than nervous system training. At that point, escalate. For the 1-wing 2, escalation means raising the relational or moral stakes. Make the onlooker someone whose opinion matters deeply to you. Make the withheld rescue harder to withhold. Make the unjust verdict more public. The goal is not comfort with the simulation. The goal is to keep delivering contradictory experiential data at sufficient activation to drive reconsolidation. Track your intensity. This is a training metric, not a comfort metric. If escalation feels morally wrong, If the 1-wing-2's internal critic begins framing escalation as self-indulgence or irresponsibility, note that response. That is the avoidance architecture activating under a new disguise. Return to the rep. The simulations build the new pathway. Reality testing verifies it has been installed. For the 1-wing-2, these exposures are deliberately small and precisely targeted. Send a message without over-polishing it. Decline a low-stakes request without over-explaining. Leave a minor, non-essential error uncorrected. Witness someone's mild discomfort without intervening. In each case, observe your body before, during, and after. The success marker is not that the urge was absent. For the 1-wing-2, the urge may continue firing for some time. The marker is that you did not obey it, and your internal legitimacy remained intact when you didn't. No collapse, no prosecution, worth structurally unchanged. That is measurable. That is what the protocol is producing. This is the definition you are working toward. Sovereignty is not the absence of the compulsion. It is the absence of its authority. For the 1-wing-2, the compulsion to correct, to rescue, to justify may continue to arise. The work is not to eliminate that signal. The work is to break its command function so that when it fires, you are the one deciding whether to act, not the prediction. This is what a liberated 1-wing-2 actually looks like. Not someone without standards or care. Someone whose standards are chosen, not compelled. Someone whose care is genuine, not fear-driven. Someone whose worth no longer requires continuous demonstration. You are not installing a new personality. You are reclaiming the authority your nervous system ceded to a false threat model. The mechanism is neuroplastic. The tool is repetition under activation. The target is the 1-wing-2's specific prediction error. You have the protocol. Run the reps.